What the heck is Formula One?
Pole position, strategy,
yachts and parties,
safety car, Ferrari.
beautiful corners.
Oh, right, okay. There's a car in front of you. Try and overtake it.
Oh, I hate you so much. Hello, you fools. Welcome back to another Formula Fools podcast. This is the podcast where we hope to enhance your F1 knowledge so you can graduate from fool to expert. Speaking of expert, I am David, your self-appointed expert in the topic of Formula One, I guess. And here is... Oh, fuck, I'm an idiot. And here is Skin, who is our fool, although he should probably start doing the intros because he's not a fool at doing intros.
Okay, all right. Yeah, well, yeah. You're certainly not an expert in talking, but that's fine.
Every week I'm like, let me just read this so I just know what I'm doing. I'm like, yeah, I've got it.
Good
Every
stuff.
week it's different. From pit lane antics to racing riddles, we're here to make you laugh and question your sanity. Sit back, buckle up. It's time for Formula Fools. Hot lap recap with Ryan Smith.
The race is over. It's that time in the show for the hot lap recap. Let's go.
All right, fools, time for your hot lap recap from the Monaco Grand Prix. And here I am, look, in Monaco. Yes. No, not really. I'm just on my jollies in Gran Canaria. But look at that commitment. Look at that. I've got yachts. Yachts, the same thing. Anyway, the Monaco Grand Prix, where the only thing more predictable than the result was the number of times they mentioned the new tyre rule. Spoiler alert, it was mentioned roughly every 30 seconds, like a broken sat-nav that keeps telling you to turn left even though you're already heading in a straight direction. Now, Lando Norris, he finally conquered the streets of Monaco, leading from the lights to the flag in what can only be described as a masterclass in how to win when you start on pole and nothing goes wrong. It was Norris's second win of the season, and more importantly, it slashed Oscar Piastri's championship lead to just 3 points. That's closer than the talent gap between the two Kick Saubers, each fighting for last place. Now, the big story was supposed to be the new mandatory 3-tyre rule, designed to spice up Monaco like adding chili to a bowl of cornflakes. The theory was chaos and strategy scrambles and drivers gambling on the red flags, but the reality, about as exciting as watching paint dry on a yacht. Behind the top four, Lewis Hamilton brought his Ferrari home in 5th, which sounds underwhelming until you remember that he started from the back of the midfield. And then Lewis had been quietly consistent this season, hasn't he? Like a reliable mate who always brings crisps to the pub but never gets the credit. And the midfield, though, that's where the real action happened. Well, relatively speaking anyway. Isaac Hadjar grabbed 6th for Racing Bulls with a strategy so bizarre it almost made sense. 2 pit stops within a few laps of each other, ending up on hard tyres and running to the flag like a marathon runner who forgot to pace himself but somehow still managed to finish. And Williams, yes, of course, had another solid day with Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz both in the points, though Albon managed to wind up George Russell in the process. Not hard, is it? Russell accused Albon of driving erratically to help his teammate, which in Monaco terms means not crashing into the barriers every 5 seconds. Are you listening, Lance Stroll? George eventually cut the chicane to get past and then refused to give the place back and then copped a drive-through penalty for his troubles. He finished 11th, probably muttering something about how the hell did we get done by a Williams? Welcome to the new world, my friend. And speaking of disappointing weekends, Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin gave up the ghost with an engine failure, leaving the 2-time champion still on 0 points for the season. That's his equal worst start since 2015, when McLaren Honda was about as competitive as a chocolate teapot. Anyway, the safety car drama everyone expected, it didn't happen, did it really? Pierre Gasly rear-ended Yuki Tsunoda early on, breaking his suspension and probably his pride, but it only triggered a virtual safety car. No chaos, no strategy scrambles, just a brief yellow flag and back to the Monaco procession, where it was like ordering a spicy curry and getting a mild korma. Technically what you asked for, but not quite the thrill you were hoping for. So, to sum it all up, Norris wins his first Monaco Grand Prix with a drive so smooth it could have been sponsored by Silk. Piastri's championship lead shrinks faster than a wallet in Monte Carlo, and the new tyre rule added about as much excitement as doing your tax return. The title fight is now properly on, with 3 points separating the McLaren boys and Verstappen lurking 22 points back, hanging behind a bit like a patient predator. He's there and we know he's coming. Next up, Barcelona, the final Spanish Grand Prix at Catalunya before the circus moves to Madrid next year. It's the end of an era, isn't it? It's like saying goodbye to an old friend who never quite lived up to their potential, but was always there when you needed them. That's your Hot Lap recap. I'm Ryan, reminding you that in Monaco, as in life, sometimes the biggest gamble is expecting something unexpected to happen. I'll catch you next time. See you later.
Guru. Do you know what I just realised about Ryan?
What?
I always assumed when he does them at home that he has like a teleprompter or a script on his screen.
Yep.
He's just stood in a harbour.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. It looks like he's just filming it with a selfie.
Yeah.
Just face to cam, and he's just nailed it in one take. I don't understand.
He's an absolute weapon.
How does he remember that? Or is he just that good off the cuff? Or
I don't know. He's a guru.
why are you and I still doing the most of the episode?
Yeah, why are we? We need to give. This is why we need to launch a Patreon, because then Ryan can just have a bigger slot on the Patreon.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I like it.
Yeah, same. You've got a couple of qualifying bits that you wanted to, qualifying and free practice bits that you wanted to go over.
Yeah, no, I think it was more the free practice. I thought qualifying all looked pretty normal, didn't it? They tried to drive as fast as they could. A few people didn't do that successfully, like Mercedes. Some other people were slightly better. But more in free practice, there was the controversy with Ollie Bearman overtaking under a red flag.
Yeah.
What was your take on that? It seemed weird. He got a massive penalty. He got like a 10 place grid penalty drop, or whatever I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
What am I trying to say?
10 place grid drop.
Yep. So that was his penalty, which is huge.
Yeah.
It looked like, I mean,
Yeah.
I get you can't. I assume it's obviously a big deal. You can't overtake under a red flag, but it looked like he just didn't see the red flag until it was like too late. Like he was fanging it into that corner. It looked like he was trying to, like he was on a quali lap. On a quali lap.
Yeah.
Like he was really going fast, and he comes around the corner. There's like red flag and signs. It's just stopped dead. It's like he obviously just didn't feel like he could slam the brakes on safely, I guess.
I think the problem is that I think he went through like 2 or 3 corners with the red flag on, and even if he didn't see the signs, it's on his steering wheel.
Right.
So like he should have just slowed down is the main issue, because it would have been on his steering wheel saying red flag, and his engineer probably would have told him in his ear, red flag, slow down.
Right.
So it's just weird. It's just like he forgot what a red flag is all of a sudden. But yeah, you're right. It looked like as he was coming through that corner towards Carlos, it looked like he just genuinely didn't know.
Yeah.
Like he didn't look like, because I don't think he was doing it on purpose to be, to put people's lives at risk if there was a marshal on track or anything. I think it was just a genuine mistake. But it's weird at this level to see a mistake like that, which is why the penalty is so high.
Yeah, okay, right. So, yeah, okay. I didn't realise that. So he would have had someone in his ear telling him like long.
Well, he should have, yeah. As soon as a red flag drops, they should say red flag, like slow down.
Okay.
I think there might be a delta of like a minimum speed or a time, whatever that they need to get to. So, yeah, he would have. But even without that, his steering wheel would have been flashing red. Like he would have had a red flag on his steering wheel saying like what the track's activity is.
Right.
So like, yeah, there's no excuse for what he did.
Okay.
It was just a very weird thing. I think Carlos, on the flip of that, Carlos also overtook someone under a different red flag in free practice 1 or something. The difference being that Carlos was already making a move on a slow moving car as the red flag dropped. So Ollie had like 2 or 3 corners. He had like, I think it might have been 20 seconds or something to react, or 10 seconds to react to it. Whereas Carlos had like 1 second. So yeah, that's kind of where the difference is. But it's just a bizarre thing to see, especially around Monaco, when it's a track is probably going to get red flags. So it's something that in the driver briefings before each session, it would be, hey, keep an eye on your steering wheel for red flags because people are probably going to crash.
Right, okay.
So yeah.
And so there's no genuine reason for him to have done that other than it just a mistake.
Yeah, just made a mistake.
Okay. Radio.
Go Ollie.
Yeah, very good.
I mean, probably not.
No.
I mean, look, where Ocon finished in the points as well, it's a shame that Ollie got that penalty because they clearly had a fairly good race car. Like Ocon qualified in the top 10 and then maintained his position. I mean, it's Monaco, but yeah, Ollie could have done the same.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So that sucks.
Was there anything else from qualifying that you thought was really noteworthy? I feel like the biggest talking point was in the race.
Yeah. The only thing I'll say from quali, and we've spoken a bit about this season, is Lando's confidence and the way that he's holding himself. I feel like this qualifying session was a huge thing for Lando. because he got out of the car and interviewed, and he just had a smile on his face, and he seemed happier with his performance and where he's at mentally after this race and mainly after the quali. Whereas Oscar was very disappointed with his whole weekend, just couldn't get on top of the car and was struggling the whole weekend. Now, you know, winning Monaco isn't everything. Like Charles won it, you know, last year or whatever, didn't get anywhere close to winning the championship, but it's a good confidence boost for Lando. And Lando, we know, is a person that needs them little ticks of approval. So yeah, we'll just wait and see what happens with Lando. But as far as I'm aware, as far as I can see from that quali, it was very good for him.
Yeah, cool. And then in the race, obviously the main difference this year, which we touched on last week, was there was 2 mandatory pit stops as opposed to 1. That was going to be the big game changer that makes the race much more enjoyable. It'll change everything. And what was your take on it? It kind of felt a bit disappointing, didn't it?
Yeah, I wrote in the notes in all caps, "smaller fucking cars." I wrote that as I was watching the race because I was so frustrated with just how big these cars are and how cumbersome they are. So yeah, look, it was a bit of a shit show. The 2-stop, as we saw with RB, Williams and Mercedes, it just led to just shit racing, and it just led to like really dirty tactics and strategies. And it wasn't nice. But then the thing is we see this kind of strategy quite a lot with people slowing other people down. It's usually just the pole sitter will slow everyone down to keep everyone within the same pit window kind of thing. Whereas this year it was more like the pole runners were running out in front, which is what we wanted, but it meant all of the midfield were then holding each other up, and it got so fucking confusing. I feel like anyone that watched Monaco for the first time because of the hype is never going to watch Formula 1 again, because that was the most confusing race I've ever seen. Like with the lapped cars and who's not pitted and who's done a second stop and who's done just 1 stop and who needs to use that time. Now it's just no.
Yeah, there's a big going on.
So complicated.
Okay. And yeah, so it definitely led to like not the greatest racing to watch, I suppose. It wasn't good. Not everyone was happy about it. I found it really annoying, and I'm sure we'll dive into that later. But like, would you say it was at all an improvement? Like on the other hand, at least like there was something happening, like there were some different strategies going on that you sort of had to think about, as opposed to just
straightforward 1 stop
qualifying is the result.
Well, this is the thing. I think if let's say we said one, let's say it was going to be a 1-stop race. You didn't have to stop for the second time. I think that first virtual safety car, was it a VSC that came out? After lap 1, I think it was. The first VSC, I think if it was a 1-stop race, everyone would have pitted then, and that would have been it. For the rest of the race, nothing would have changed. So in terms of that, yeah, potentially it was a better race than if we didn't have a 2-stop. But it was too complicated. Like it made no sense around Monaco. And I was so hopeful. I was really looking forward to it. We had a lot of people DMing us saying like, is it going to be good? And I'm like, in theory, this should be great. But we still had basically no overtakes. We still had no real movement. Like the top 3 stayed the same. It was, okay. I think, if Max had won the race from 4th, had there been a late safety car or red flag in that last phase, I think that would have been impressive, but it would have still been manufactured, and it would have still been 1 change in the whole top 6 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Okay. Sans Fernando. Fernando's engine blowing up, but like it would have been the only change to the top drivers, really. So it would have been disappointing, regardless of what happened. And I'm saying that with retrospect because I was looking forward to it a lot leading up to the race.
Yeah. Potentially stupid question.
Yeah.
Just purely anecdotally, I don't know if there's anything to this, but is there any reason like the safety cars and crashes and things are less likely later in the race? I feel like you always see like a heap of action at the start.
Yeah.
Shit goes on, someone crashes, safety cars come out, and then there's just like 50 laps of nothing. Yeah. Does that happen a bit?
Yeah. It's because we've got drivers and teams fuel saving, tire saving from the 3rd lap onwards, basically. Especially on a track like Monaco where they can go crazy slow and just like everyone could have pitted on lap 1 and still made it to the end on a hard set of tires, because you just don't like, you can go as slow as you want around Monaco. So yeah, like that's kind of why, which is, it's just, it just makes it boring. Bring softer tires. Let's just do something. Let's just do something radical, which is what they tried with this 2-stop, and it just didn't work. So I've got a feeling we're gonna have something crazy for next year as well.
Okay.
I don't know how they're gonna change it up, but I've just got a feeling based on this year they're gonna try something different again next year.
All right.
Racing Bulls.
Yep. What do you got?
So Isaac had a great quali, I wrote, and I thought their strategy for both drivers in the race was really good, especially in the early part when we saw Isaac pit and come out ahead of Liam. I don't know if it was super obvious at that point what Liam was doing, slowing the Williams and the Mercedes down. I think a lot of people were like, oh, he's just not that quick. His tires aren't that good or whatever. No, he was doing it on purpose. He was doing 119s when Isaac was doing like 115s or 116s or something. So yeah, it was a great strategy early doors from Racing Bulls. I kind of feel like that strategy was like they knew what they were going to do going into the race, because just looking at the way they executed it from the earliest point, it felt very manufactured and it felt very clever from them to use that strategy. But unfortunately, that had a knock-on effect because Williams then got held up and we were then kind of in no man's land. And if we had pitted under a regular strategy, would have lost both points. So we then had to kind of copy what they did. And Carlos had to hold back the cars. So Alex could just copy what Racing Bulls did. And then we rotated them and then we did the same thing again. So yeah, what was a great strategy from Racing Bulls going in led to the only controversial thing from the race weekend, and a very kind of like, fuck, are we really doing this kind of opinion to the race.
Can you help me understand why Williams had to do that? Because I think James Vowers, like after the race, said that their hand was sort of forced. I think he like even sent. It came out that he sent an apology to Toto or something
during the race.
Yeah, like we just have no choice, basically.
Yeah.
Why was their hand forced by the RB strategy? Like, when they saw Lawson driving slower, what would have stopped them from doing something else other than copying that shit strategy? Like, couldn't they have pitted when they saw Lawson going slow, come out in a different window or like somewhere else on the track, and sort of started to make up some ground there, so that when other cars pitted ahead of them?
You can't overtake around Monaco. And because Lawson was backing them up, there was five or six cars in a train. So that was from like 9th all the way back to like 15th. We're all just in a train. Meaning that if we had pitted, let's say Alex pitted from 9th, he would have gone all the way to the back of the grid, basically, apart from maybe Bortoletto and Hulk, because they were just kind of nowhere. He would have gone all the way to the back of the grid, and then trying to overtake them on track would have been almost impossible. So if we had done that and stuck to like a traditional strategy of pitting to undercut and then fight back, we just wouldn't have been able to fight back because there was no on-track overtakes. So yeah, that is literally what forced our hand. It was either we pit and lose out on these points, or we just fucking copy them and piss Mercedes off and get points. Like sans Fernando, because at the time obviously we didn't know Fernando was going to have an engine failure. At that point it was just like, we need to just at least get 1 point out of this race. So yeah, that was literally the only strategy we could have done. I mean, look at Kimi at the end. Kimi kind of, because Mercedes then copied what we did, and Kimi held up whatever the cars were that were behind him so that George could get his 2 pit stops in. And then when Kimi pitted, Kimi finished in like fucking P17 or 18 or something, because there was just at that point, all of the back end of the field were just so tight. But the moment he did his first stop, he dropped back to whatever. And then the moment he does his second stop, he drops back even further. Mm-hmm. It was just everyone was really bunched up. And this is the problem with Monaco, is that it's a very small, tight track, and these cars are very long and difficult to overtake with. So yeah, it's a knock-on effect. And this is why Mercedes fans getting pissy with Williams, or George getting pissy with Alex for doing what he did. It's just kind of like, do you know what? Like, it all started with RB, who had a good strategy, but that forced us to copy them, which forced Mercedes to copy us, which ultimately sacrificed Kimi's race. And George didn't even finish in the points, so like it was fucking pointless for them to do it as well. But it's like, if they didn't do it, it was either disqualification for not pitting, or both their 2 cars would have finished at the back.
Yeah, okay.
So it's just bullshit. And James, Carlos, Alex, all of them said afterwards, this is not how we want to go racing. That's not a proper race.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, for sure.
It's just boring.
And so if everyone agrees that it sucks and it's not how people want to go racing, and no one seemed to really love watching that happen, why aren't there rules to prevent that from happening? Like, surely there's such a thing as, and I think George was complaining about it during the race, surely there's such a thing as like driving dangerously slow in Formula One. Like, couldn't there just be a rule to not allow people to drive dangerously slow?
But how do you regulate that? Because dangerously slow is subjective. Like,
Okay.
If let's say, in fact, let's look at Danny Rick in 2016 when he had a genuine problem with the car and had to drive way slower than what he was driving at the foot, like in the back half of the race. He had to drive way slower than he was pre-pit stop. In that case, how do you determine that he's driving dangerously slow because he's got a problem with his car? So he's potentially driving as fast as his car can go, but it's not as fast as the car behind him can go. So do you then say, okay, well, that car can go faster, let him through because that car's that's not fair on Danny Rick. He's racing the race he wants to race, which is pushing his car as fast as possible. So then it becomes like this awkward, like Williams could have then just manufactured like, oh, we've got a problem with the car. That's why we're driving slow. Like we could have just made it up. Do you know what I mean? Like foul play kind of comes in then, and it's then just like, okay, well, these people are lying to get to have an excuse to drive slow. And it just kind of becomes you're just chasing your tail when you go down that route of like trying to enforce like what determines driving slow on a street circuit, or Martin saying on the live broadcast, things like, oh, if we have it where the first pit stop needs to be within the first 20 laps and then the second pit stop can be in the last 20 laps or whatever. It's kind of like you're just trying to force something that isn't there. Like you're just trying to make another rule to fix a rule that's already broken. Mm-hmm. The thing that's broken about Monaco is the track and the cars. It's not the rules. The rules are the same on every track and they work perfect. Or well, not perfect, but you know what I mean. Yep. So yeah.
Okay. And then alternative idea. And I know.
Oh God. I'm not excited for this.
Yeah. I suspect you'll hate this. I suspect lots of people will hate this. I feel dumb bringing this up, but it's an idea. So everyone agrees that sucked. The race sucked. That strategy, no one enjoyed it. It's not how people want to go racing. Why? And I'm looking for ways to prevent that from happening. Right?
Yep.
Why not just not allow? And I don't know how you would enforce it, and I don't know how the scoring systems would work, but like just not allow team strategies like that. So like you look at the teams and they're competing for a constructors championship, right?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Who can construct the best car? That's what they're competing for.
Yep.
They're not competing for who has the best strategy about how they slow down other drivers and who has the best on-track strategy and uses their two cars best. It's not.
Yep.
That's not the championship. Well, it shouldn't be.
Sure. You need to watch more F1 because that's been the case for many years.
I suppose, but is it not a terrible idea to just like not allow that and just say like everyone just fucking drive as fast as you can, you losers? Like you're all individual drivers. You just go drive.
Sure, take the constructors championship away, and then you've got that. If there's one championship and it's the drivers, you've then got drivers going into business for themselves. And if that was to happen, you wouldn't have two cars per team. You'd have 20 individual or 10 individual drivers racing for. Like McLaren would have one driver, Red Bull would have one driver. You wouldn't have all of that. I know what you're saying. Look, it is a stupid suggestion, but it's also not a stupid suggestion because that would certainly make it more interesting and remove that element that we had this weekend. But it's just trying to put something in place for one race. Yeah. I would rather, I love Monaco. I don't want to see it go, but I would rather see Monaco go than do that.
Right.
Because I think that changes Formula One more than not having Monaco on the calendar.
Right. And so outside of Monaco, I take it people generally like the whole team setup and the strategy that comes into play. It's like another element in the race.
For sure. Like there's been a whole debate whether Red Bull should own two teams, with the RB team being a Red Bull sister team. That debate has been going for as long as I can remember. But I kind of froth it. Like I like that, we can have, you look at Abu Dhabi 2021 with Checo slowing Lewis down, like staying out on crazy tires and just saving them as much as possible just to defend against Lewis, just try and slow him down so Max can catch. I like that you can use a teammate like that if the teammate is willing to do it and mathematically not in the run-in for whatever. And also, like in Williams' case here, we used our strategy and the boys used each other to get 3 points instead of 2. Like it was a good way of getting them that one extra point. So I kind of like that element to Formula One over a full season. But I would love to see just everyone balls to the wall. No one cares about tires. No one cares about fuel saving. We're just fucking hammering it. That would be the best. But it's just not F1.
Okay.
And I think Red Bull's strategy with, I mean, the Tsunoda's just whatever. Like he finished nowhere fucking near the Racing Bulls and scored no points compared to them. Well, no, he literally scored no points and they did. But Max's strategy, I think, was just classic Red Bull. Like holding off for a safety car or just something to happen. Like, I don't know. I don't feel like McLaren or Ferrari would have taken that risk. I mean, they didn't, but I don't feel like they would ever take that risk this season to just sit out front, wait for it. And if a safety car happens, they could maybe bag a podium or a win. Like, I just don't know if they've got the coconuts to do it.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? It seemed like the only option when he found himself in that position.
Yeah, no, exactly. It was the only option for Max, but I don't know. I just think McLaren are just, genuinely, I just don't think they've got the balls to do it. Like, I think they're a lot more scared of losing this championship, whereas Red Bull have kind of got nothing to lose. Like, they're probably not going to win they're definitely not going to win the constructors. They're probably not going to win the drivers. So why not just throw everything at it? Yeah. Okay. And I froth that about Red Bull.
Yeah, nice.
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
So we're going to move on to driver of the day and biggest letdown. This was the hardest race of the season to decide. I wrote Lando Norris for driver of the day.
Fair. You won.
Isaac was my only other choice, but kind of was helped by Liam. So
yeah, okay.
You know, I was like, okay, like great qualifying, but Norris won.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. No, Isaac, yeah, that's a fair shout. In an attempt to not say Norris, I said Max just because I liked that he tried something different. Like he had a crack.
Yep, I can appreciate that.
Could have potentially changed something, given himself a better result, and he didn't have to like fuck off the entire F1 world in the process. So like just making it a totally shit race. Yeah. He just like had a little bit of a gamble. But yeah, I mean, he still ended up fourth, didn't he? So
he also pissed Norris off at the end because he was driving crazy slow, but I think that was more that his tyres were cooked.
Yeah.
And then biggest letdown, I just wrote the Mercedes power units because we saw an Aston Martin shit the bed. We saw two Mercedes engines during qualifying, both shit the bed.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't know what happened to, and was it Oscar or Lando? There was something on the radio about them being concerned about the engine temps or something. I can't remember which one it was. So yeah, I don't know what happened to the Mercedes power units, but not great in Monaco, which is also not a power hungry circuit. So that's concerning.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair. That is weird.
Yeah.
I guess that's good. That's hard to disagree with. I wrote Alonso was the biggest letdown. I thought that was really disappointing. It looked like he was just doing so well. He was actually going to score quite a few points, and then he's just like parked.
Yeah. Yeah. Just
quite disappointing.
But it's just his luck this year. Like Ryan said in his hot lap recap, it's his joint worst start to a season since he was in the McLaren Honda back in the day, and he must just hate that car. He must just be praying that Adrian Newey's working some fucking magic on that 26 car.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I didn't realize it was just like all Mercedes power units. Because you're right. It was also quite a letdown watching qualifying, and George, like you're expecting George to like do something and get somewhere up in the top like 5 maybe, and then it's like, he's just stopped.
Yeah, I think I just said 2 Mercedes power units and thingy blew up. No, Kimi crashed, didn't he, in quali? He like went into the wall after the Nouvelle chicane. Like, yeah, Mercedes, just sort it out, please. Did you see Toto and James having little words on the balcony afterwards? There's no audio of it, but there's clips of like Toto leaning over the balcony, like pointing at James, and James just kind of stood there like that. Like, I would love to have known that like Toto was shouting at him, but yeah, it's just, I just don't know what anyone expected Williams to do in that position. It's either lose your points and not be fuckwits, or be fuckwits and keep your points. And as a die-hard Williams fan, let me tell you, the points mean more to me than our reputation.
Okay. No, it's fine. You have to get points. I get that. You're just losers.
When you say losers, you mean winners. We beat Mercedes this weekend.
10th.
Shut your
not winning.
Shut your mouth. You just wait till this time next year, Carlos Sainz or Alex Albon. In fact, no, fuck it. Carlos and Alex, I don't really care which way. First and second, Monaco, guaranteed. You can, anyone that has got significant amount of money, don't put that bet on. Don't do it. Next up, we've got the Spanish Grand Prix. And as Ryan mentioned, I've got three things for you that I want to point out. Ryan already mentioned this one. We're saying farewell to the Barcelona track, to the Circuit de Catalunya, which has hosted the Spanish Grand Prix from 1991 through to this year. We are going to be moving to Madrid for the Mad Ring circuit, as they're calling it, next year, which is part street circuit, part actual track, I think.
How the hell do you do that?
There's diagrams. I'll show you. It looks shit. I can't imagine it's going to be great. But also the Barcelona Grand Prix isn't the best. Again, difficult for overtaking. So yeah, we'll just see. I'm sure the last 6 races have been won from pole or something like that. So yeah, you're on for a great one this weekend, guys. The second thing I wanted to mention for this weekend, which is quite interesting, and this could bring something more interesting for the season and hopefully this weekend, we have a rule change, a technical rule change mid-season coming this weekend. So the new FIA regulations are going to tighten the control over the flexible aerodynamic components known as flexi wings. So front and rear wings, things like that, mainly the front wings. So as you're going down a straight, you can see on the front cameras that they'll like flex backwards a little bit, which is going to create less drag and mean the cars can go faster. There was a fight last season between Red Bull and McLaren on McLaren's flexi wings, and there has been a fight all season about it. McLaren keeps passing the test all the time with their front wings, and the FIA can't find an issue with them, but they're tightening the rules more, and Red Bull think that with these tightened rules, they will have an edge over McLaren. We had a similar rule change, or I don't think it was around flexi wings, but we had a rule change last year in, I think it was Miami, or it might have been Barcelona again. And we saw go back to the start of last year, McLaren weren't really dominant. They'd not won a race till Miami. And they weren't looking like they were going to win the constructors. And then we had this rule change, and all of a sudden they start winning and they start doing better. They win the constructors. So Red Bull certainly are hoping that this rule change is going to turn the tide back into their favor. I think Mercedes and Ferrari might be hoping for the same. So yeah, expect potentially different results moving forward into the season.
Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, not as a McLaren fan, obviously, but
just as a spectator, though.
Exactly. That's what I mean. How exciting.
Yeah.
Different things.
If Oscar loses his championship now, then don't come on, because that would suck.
That would be disappointing.
Yeah. It's also going to be quite warm in Barcelona this weekend. Checking the weather a couple of days ago, it looks like it's going to be warmer than it's going to be slightly higher temperatures than usual for this time of year in Barcelona, meaning the rough abrasive surface that Barcelona has, tires could degrade quite quickly. I'm pretty sure Pirelli have put forward the hardest compounds available. So the C123, I think it is, which are the hardest 3, which is great, meaning the opposite. That was sarcasm. It's not great. I would love for us to be sat in the middle with hotter temperatures, meaning tires are going to degrade faster, but we can still hope that tires will degrade pretty quick if the temperatures are going to be warmer. So just keep an eye out for that. Front left tire is usually a bastard around here. So, hopefully we see some heavy graining and 2-stop comes into play. Would be nice, but we will see. Well, that wraps up another lap around the Formula Fools podcast. We hope you enjoyed the ride as much as we did, and it's now your turn to join the Fools family by connecting with us on social media. On Facebook, we are at Formula Fools. On Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, we are Formula_Fools.
Oh, yeah. On Spotify and Apple and all those places, we're Formula Fools. And you can leave us ratings and reviews there. That would help a great deal. Thank you. I
think if someone's listening to this, they know that we're Formula Fools on Spotify and Apple, because that's where they're listening.
That was the joke.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry.
You could be on YouTube too.
Yeah.
We're also Formula
That's
Fools.
true, yeah. Formula_Fools on YouTube. Yeah. Come on, get with the program. I just said that.
Anyways, leave us a rating and review. Bye.
I fucking forgot the last line again and I keep closing my phone. Thank you for joining us at Formula Fools, where every turn is a chance for a good laugh. We'll see you next time.
Oh, yeah.